Verse 65. This is why I told you that no one can come to me unless it is granted him by the Father. This is Jesus speaking here. This is Jesus talking. Many years ago, y'all have heard my testimony before. I thought I was a Christian. I repeated a prayer after a youth pastor at youth camp one year. And so I just went on after that point thinking I was a Christian. I cared nothing about godliness. I cared nothing about sanctification. Even if I went to church, it was for the wrong reasons. But I thought I was saved because I said that prayer one time, okay? Many of you may have a similar experience. Many of you may have truly been saved by saying a prayer after somebody. That really happens, yeah, amen. But it wasn't till later in life when I truly became a believer in Jesus Christ. And what had to happen? I can say all these things. I can walk aisles. I can raise my hand. I can do all this stuff. But for this gospel to seriously penetrate the heart of a sinner, something has to happen. What is that has to happen? Jesus has said this time and time again in this chapter. This is why I told you that no one can come to me unless it is granted him by the Father. You must be granted access to Jesus Christ to be saved. And all Jesus says that the Father gives me will come to me. It is a work of God. Why am I putting so much emphasis on this? Because Jesus is. Jesus is saying the difference between the unbeliever and the believer is granted access. Your spirit, your flesh is no help at all. It is the Spirit who gives life. Verse 66. And this is really, after Jesus says that, which is similar today, I've seen it. After Jesus says this is why I told you that no one can come to me unless it's granted him by the Father. Many of his disciples turned back and no longer walked with him. They were done when he said that. Are you telling me that my flesh is no good? That for me to truly be a child of God, I have to believe in you, and the only way I can believe in you is if I'm granted access to you by the Father. I'm done. I'm out. But this is what Jesus says. And regardless of where you were, your own testimony, how you came to faith in Jesus Christ, this is how it worked. All we see is what happens right here in front of us. But at any point in your life, God is doing a countless number of things that you are totally unaware of. After this, many of his disciples turned back and no longer walked with him. It wasn't because he fed people. They loved that. It wasn't because he healed the sick. They loved that. It wasn't because he walked on water. They loved that. It's because the words that he spoke were truth. And people love darkness rather than truth.